It blows my mind in 2025 that you are not seeing corporate offices allot a certain amount of money just for security.
What if I told you, like, you can code that? You can create that same AI camera detection system at home. I had a Green Beret that really loved doing AI tech at home, had that coded it into his security system at home. It is cost effective. You can do that.
An iconic image that forever will be kind of burned into people's brains is this dude's in New York City walking with an AR just like full stride. I mean, it was movie-esque. Welcome to the podcast, brother.
Thank you for having me, man.
Something currently on the news was the active shooter. And I'd love to talk about that a little bit. It's a conversation that we tend to have here in America quite often. I'm always curious about how it leads to these events and also what security efforts are put in place to help defend it. And I'm always thinking about the psychology of the individual, why they thought that was the action that needed to be taken. So there's a lot of things here. So first I want to say this. He went to Granada High School, which is about 2 miles from where I grew up. So I thought that was fascinating. Yeah. But from what I was reading, and please correct me if I'm wrong and let me know, but it sounded like he was more of a disgruntled football player that was blaming a TBI or his potential, what do they call it?
CTE.
What is it called?
CTE.
CTE on the NFL, and it was his way of kind of getting back at the man, but he just took the wrong path. Is this correct?
Yeah. The thing that gets muddied and gets people throw out CTE, and we have to understand, like, CTE can't be diagnosed while you're alive. Like the best brain banks in the world, like BYU, the people that are at the forefront of this are only able to diagnose and 100% determine CTE after somebody's passed away. Like that's why we were able to dial it in and figure out all these football players were dealing with it, because their brains were studied and dissected and taken to places where they could actually be thoroughly studied and understood, and that's where we figure out CTE. But RHI, repetitive head impact, traumatic brain injuries, that's something that we can understand from contact sports. So I 100% believe this young man, after playing youth, probably playing, since being a little kid, Pop Warner, these constant head impact does affect your brain, and it does affect your ability to reason, come to terms with what you're dealing with in life, and can make you very irrational. We've seen that within our own demographic in the military.
Yeah.
Something that is just now talked about. So he was definitely suffering. But what takes you from being able to make rational decisions into going into an office building and starting to target human beings? Like that is the long chain of events and thoughts that sadly we'll never understand. But what we can start doing is figuring out how we can better protect ourselves in these places where, if you're in a big city, if you're an office building and you're the headquarter for all these big, important entities, you should have very good security. And it makes me wonder how you made it all the way through, to, several floors and several entry points. And you weren't met with an armed guard, weren't met with several points of security in depth. That to me is ridiculous.
Well, let me back up real quick. And what you mentioned is that a lot of veterans with traumatic brain injuries, we see them making erratic decisions. We see them kind of just destroying their lives from the inside out. And I've always told people, like, the brain injury is the first thing we need to address before we start trying to send people to fucking, excuse my language, but send them to like horse, equestrian therapy, because the brain is not in a healthy state to receive information. Maybe at that moment it's setting in, but within weeks, if this brain is too much, just too strong of a TBI, or there's so many other issues in there, like nothing's going to set in, right? It's like, it's like trying to zero a broken sight. It's just going to be screwed up, you know? And so the brain injury is a very important one. There's several cool organizations that are doing that, but like I think all of us need to understand, like you have to fix that first, because without that, man, never gonna keep, you're not gonna keep fixing you're not gonna fix the right thing.
Yeah.
And so that's always an interesting thought to me. I've even said that I believe if we started studying veterans' brains, we have CTE. A lot of the guys who've made these irrational choices to end their own lives, I believe it is rooted in some kind of CTE. And
brother, the proof is out there, the evidence is out there, and let's dive in this for a little bit. Our backgrounds are very similar for a lot of us. A lot of us were in contact sports. That's where we learned the importance of team and building that long chain of legacy of understanding the importance of values, like being a team player, having honor, integrity. It was built in sports, whether it's boxing, football, or even soccer. We've been in contact sports for a long time. It gives us, for a lot of times, it's the first time we had that team, that community bonding, that spirit de corps formed within us. And then we move into the military, and repetitive head impacts are in our line of work. Whether you're a paratrooper, a ranger, a Green Beret, Navy, a Navy SEAL, like head impacts is part of what we do. And the other thing is blast wave exposure. Now, we used to always just think that this was relegated just to the tier 1 guys, the tip of the cream of the crop, the top 1% of our military. But that's not true. Blast wave exposure is something that all of our guys and gals that are in fields like being a mortarman, being an artillery person, being a paratrooper, you're exposed to stuff. Our 11 Charlies, some of our most impacted population come from the 11 Charlies. This blast wave doesn't just affect you in the near term. It sets off a chain of events that will continue to impact you the rest of your career. And one of the earliest things that we notice is that personality shift. We see our friends that are most impacted having a personality shift. But the one thing that we're always given as a coping device ends up being alcohol. So what do we blame it on? Oh, this guy's just drinking too much. Yeah. This guy, it was very easy. You remember the Las Vegas incident? It was a Green Beret. The very first thing we tried pinning it on was that it was an alcohol guy. He was just drinking too much stress. And then the weird conspiracy guys, because he wasn't in the right frame of mind. He was saying a lot of things that were very out of character, very weird, out of place. They're like, oh, he was involved in some like deep state stuff. It's like, no. Anybody that's been involved in peer-to-peer support, anybody that's been there for their friends that are in crisis, they recognized the shift in the behavior. They recognized what he was right. The man was in a mental health crisis. And I will tell you right now, if we ever had the ability to send that gentleman's brain to BYU, to a university that studies it, I believe without a shadow of a doubt, we would see the signs of CTE, the signs of repetitive blast exposure damage on that brain. Yeah. You know what breaching does to the body. You've been there. You've been on a breach. You've rode a charge into a room and cleared. Now add that up over a 20-year career, a 32-year career, even as short as a 5 to 10 career. If you're in a CRIF, if you're a CRIF SIF company, I forget, they always flip-flop their names now these days. But whatever entity, or even our SWAT guys, they're affected by this. This changes your ability to understand, rationalize, and reason. Yeah. I dealt with it in my own career. I dealt with not understanding the importance of being able to take a knee if you've had a concussion. If you're an athlete, if you were a paratrooper in 82nd, if you're a Green Beret, you know what it's like to just shrug things off and keep moving forward. Those drops in the bucket, those concussions, they will continue to add up. And eventually you're going to get to a point where you can't understand why you're always angry. You can't understand why you're always forgetting things. You can't understand why if things get too elevated, you go into like a brain lock. You can't talk because you're so angry. You're locked up. And all these things we now have a name for, operator syndrome. But yet still people are not understanding it. And it's almost like a hubris thing. Like they don't want to understand that they can be a mere mortal. Like they need to take a knee. Like, hey, the signs, the doctors, everybody's now speaking about this. Like we have to pay attention. We have to be willing to say, hey, it's not going to cut it for me to take a weekend off. It's not going to cut it for me to go drink about this. I need to get help. And there are some good treatment centers. There are some good places where the individuals are being treated like they are the absolute most important thing. And we need to understand it's multiple modalities have to be taken to healing this individual. It's not just going to the doctor visit for one thing. It's multiple things you're dealing with.
I would ask that those of you who are involved in some kind of leadership that do conduct training, that you be mindful of that training, because Grossman, author of several of those books, right, on
Yep.
combat, he talked about training scars, and I always think about, like, he's talking about training mental scars, but like the physical scars that you don't see from blast exposures.
Yeah.
Ranger Battalion was all about like how close you can get to the door charge and get in there faster. It was about eating flashbangs in training so that you know what it's like in combat. It was about being, dude, shooting Gustavs way more than the recommended amount in one day. It's this thing that we do that we think we're building tough soldiers and we think we're building combat ready soldiers, but we're just shortening the lifespan of these soldiers' mental health based on the fact that we are giving them legitimate training scars internally, mentally, and that's a very dangerous road to be on. And those leaders who, obviously, we weren't educated on this younger, but now that we know, I would hope that they start making shifts in the training and having appropriate rest to work ratios when it comes to blast exposures. Just a lot of different things, but it's a thought, and it's something we could probably carry off into the sunset and talk all day about, because I think it's such an important topic.
Yeah.
But I would pivot this to talk about this, this young individual who probably was suffering from something like this, who was finding himself probably, having irregular reactions to certain things that has built up to a frustration. I'm not justifying by any means what he did. I'm trying to be empathetic for what he was going through that made him feel that this was the only answer. But the craziest part to me is what you were saying also in your intro, was about the lack of security. It blows my mind in 2025 that you are not seeing corporate offices allot a certain amount of money just for security, for their buildings, for their personnel, for their CEOs. It still just shocks me to know that these multi-million/billion-dollar industries can't pivot to put up some kind of funding just for security purposes, which there is some kind of IRS like code where if the company determines that it needs security, you can do a tax write-off to most of that. Which is even crazier. Then you're like, wait, well, then you have no excuse as a business person, correct?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
It's insane to me. If getting into my gym requires a passcode to get into my gym, like I've got that's boom, entry point number one. How did you make it that far? How did this gentleman clearly walking up, and the footage shows him walking up with a rifle? Okay.
An iconic image that forever will be kind of burned into people's brains is this dude's in New York City walking with an AR, just like full stride. I mean, it was movie-esque, almost feeling of like it reminded me of Heat when they're in the street, dog.
I was going to say Heat. Yeah.
Bro, I was like, this image is going to be burned in people's heads for the rest of their lives. This is an iconic image. It's similar to, the North Hollywood shootout, those two guys in the vests. It's a very iconic, like, holy crap moment.
Yeah. And the thing that we have to remember too, like we have a president's, Luigi set of precedents for being bold and brazen. So that's giving people, the idea is already out there. It's already been placed. And people think this is the last time, like, you're wrong. Like there's another one that's going to embolden people. There is this Robin Hood mentality, this idea that just because these executives at BlackRock or the executives at the NFL can be vilified, like it makes it right. I'm like, these people are human beings. At the end of the day, it's a human being. Compassion can be given to both sides.
Yeah, and let me stop you by one thing that I noticed. We're working with a client currently right now that, no joke, on Reddit, there is call to action for them to be Luigi'd.
Yep.
It has become the term of the movement, of the idea of taking out the man who is holding them down, or that has this great effect on them personally by way of who knows what. But that has become a no shit call to action.
Yep. And how do we keep that from, and like I said, like the easiest thing is just walking that dog back from the very beginning. He gets out of the car, grabs a rifle. Where's every other sensor in that outer perimeter, that outer security? Who do you have on the outside that's keying in on that threat, walking to?
Yeah, there's AI detectors these days that could identify that firearm. Why wasn't so that camera image that caught him, that same image would have been able to identify that was a firearm and give him early warning.
And what if I told you that some of our like you can code that, you can create that same AI camera detection system at home. I had a Green Beret that really loved doing AI tech at home, had that coded it into his security system at home. It is cost effective. You can do that. A company, an entity that large can have had that as part of their outer security. Full stop. It's not that hard. What are you cutting money? Like where's the funding being allocated for this? Like in outer security that is effective. Like
there's so many things that could have happened there where it's like maybe they had this implemented 10 years ago and like, oh, why update the system? It's fine. There's so many things that could have happened.
There's a lot of things. Yeah. Behind the curtains, there's so much we don't often see. Like it's the idea that, we tend to think that every system is so advanced and so capable, but when you finally become part of this organization and get a peek behind the curtain, you realize like, holy cow, you're running on, a Linux system. You're running on some software that's outdated. It's like, okay, let's divert some. And I hope this is starting to get some people thinking. And there's plenty of contractors, plenty of individuals out there that can help you defend yourself and protect yourself and add layers to your point of entry. Because this is
something that the North Group does intimately for many other companies. I've called the North Group outside and said, hey, I have a company that is looking for this, because there's layers to that. The CEO's protection. If this individual was going to get to a CEO, am I correct? One of the individuals was a high level C-suite woman for BlackRock.
Yep.
Right. Like, where was she at the time when that happened, and how was that even possible? There's just so many things that are frustrating. But like, I had 3 friends that were hanging out, like 3 special op dudes that are in the community that we know very well, right? They were just posting videos being in New York, and I kept thinking like, 1, oh man, if they were close, I know they would have done something. But 2, I hope it's not them involved, right? In the sense of like, I hope they weren't in the wrong place at the wrong time as well. Because I don't know what the gun laws are in New York. But if you're traveling,
they're not the best,
right? Yeah, right. That's what I'm saying. When you're traveling from out of state, you might not be able to carry, and so then you get yourself caught up in a bad spot, man. So
one of the other things that really stuck out to me was they started releasing footage, or somebody sent cell phone pictures of themselves barricading the rooms that we're in. And I'm like, that's another thing. Like, how do we not have the proper systems in place to where you have doors that are secure enough? Like you shouldn't have to be moving couches and chairs. And at the other point, like, where's your response time? What's the response time for your own internal security? Like,
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, in the schools, even in the schools that I was working security, even still now, there's a school that I'm going to be probably helping with their security. Is their idea of securing doors is like, well, we gave everyone these wedges, and so the teachers are supposed
the wedges,
to yes, you know what I mean? And like very rudimentary devices, and you're like, that is what you're going to be basing the safety of these, this precious cargo that runs your company with. That's how you view your employees, as in like, well, we'll give them this wedges, or we've taught them to do this. It's like, implement some kind of technology that is almost turnkey. Secures a room. There's certain locked doors. There's certain kind of doors. There's certain kind of walls. Yeah, I saw one of the pictures of it. Looked like they threw every single piece of furniture at that wall. Which, hey, in the end of the day, beautifully done and way to act. But it sucks that they don't have the confidence to know that the company has implemented some kind of danger or some kind of safety mechanism to support any kind of active shooter. We can't go through our lives these days and not think that this might happen. Just the fact that that image we talked about earlier is out there, there's another person out there plotting to be that iconic image in the future.
Absolutely. That's the truth. You've emboldened and created a movement now, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. It lives in the internet. There's a lot of people that are disenfranchised, people that feel like they are being, that they're that they're 100% able to carry out these horrible crimes, and they're justified for it.
Oh, exactly.
Because they're suffering, because an entity and you don't have to agree or like what BlackRock is doing, but you should be able to take a step back and see a human being at the end of the day and understand that we live in a society of rules, and there are ways to go about things. Grabbing a rifle and going to a building and killing innocent people is not the way to do it, regardless of what you're suffering from.
I don't know where we've gotten to this point. It is almost movie culture. It is almost TV culture that has influenced an idea that we can rise against the machine and justify these actions by I'm the victim, the victimized mentality. And I don't want to act like I don't have an empathetic view towards those who suffer. But I do have frustrations that it is in a way an adult tantrum.
Yeah. 100%. And the point that I want to go back to, and it's like, what are we doing? When we were in Afghanistan, we were deployed. If the enemy caught us in a situation where they had the advantage, we made our way out of it, got back to our team room, we got back to the ops end, we develop a new strategy, right? We develop we add a different, we develop a new tactic, a new SOP that's going to keep us from being there again. You might have gotten us with this, but next time, let's bring it back. Everybody, let's go. How are we going to go up this? Everybody has equal footing in that team room. Let's talk through this point. What did we learn from this failure? I hope they're talking about this. How do you enter the building? How do you have a directory that is public, that anybody can access, that can let you know we have to take certain steps to protect certain people now more than ever? It's out there. People are going to target your CEOs. People are going to target your high-level executives. What are you doing to make it harder to find where they're at?
Yeah.
What are you doing to keep that information, behind a second, third order, where you have to actually talk to a human being, verify who you are before that information gets put out? I would hope that he got lucky. I would hope that he made it through that building and got lucky, and he wasn't able to. He was just targeting indiscriminately, going through whoever was able to find. What I fear is, and if it's published, if it's out there, we'll find it. But what I fear is that he was able to get to that desk or get into somebody that had a directory and figure out exactly who was going after. That's what I fear. A lot of information is out open source. Like, what are we doing to protect that information so that you can't just walk in and know that CEO or a higher executive is at this floor in this room, and that's when he comes in and out at this time and this time. I hope we're doing better.
Yeah. Well, let's get into a couple things before we close this out. First of all, do you believe the C-suite should have their faces and their names and likeness and all that on the company website?
Absolutely not. No. Absolutely not.
Not even.
Absolutely not.
How about a company that sits and says, I want to be more personal. I want people to know who we are, the foundation of us.
Yeah. I think the CEO, you're big enough. You need to start understanding that if you want to protect your people, you need to have a public face. Absolutely, 100%. But you need to protect the people that work for you. And if you're a company like BlackRock with a lot of light, a lot of publicity, and a lot of people who are now very angry at you for your policies, for the things that you're buying around in the United States, you need to understand that maybe perhaps we need to protect from this level up. And CEO and COO, of course, you're going to be the face, but everybody underneath you, we're going to have to protect. We're going to have to make sure that we're going to have to provide security. We're going to have to provide resources that make it very difficult to get into these buildings. Yeah,
there's a level of protection that comes with that if you're in a controversial space.
Yeah.
If you're, man, it's so interesting. Okay. Besides that, what are some of the things that you would implement in any kind of corporate office to protect the people? Because in my head, it's like, I don't want to just put security for the top echelon. That almost shows that you're not thinking about your lower end,
Exactly.
right.
The simplest thing, you cannot enter that lobby without going through a entry checkpoint, 100%. Like if I have to sign in to a gym, to a daycare, if I have to go through several different layers of security at the airport, it should be the same trying to get to some of the most, well-off, very well-established entities in this country. Like, you shouldn't be able to walk in through with a rifle, like full stop. Like that, to me, that building should have had way more protection. Like, it should never have happened. Like it to me,
the craziest part, it was BlackRock's office.
Yeah.
Isn't that one of the most wealthiest companies in the world?
Yeah. And you have a very, right now, they are not well liked, 100%.
Oh no,
their policies,
the media is all over these guys.
Exactly. Every single, like, you can look up almost on a daily basis something negative about BlackRock.
Yeah.
If you have, who is your strategist? Who is the person that's keeping a pulse on the situation and the metrics of how you're viewed across America? Because the moment you start trending down with the populace, sure, your profit's going through. You're doing great. Your quarterly earnings are great. What is the optics? How do you look to the rest of the country? If you look like enemy number one, I'm sorry. If that's how you look, if that's how the public eye is seeing you, you need to step up your game. You need to step up your protection, because now it's a known factor that these individuals can eventually get to you. And that's a sad part.
That's the truth.
Like, that is just,
the lowest level of training can still get to them, guaranteed.
100%. And we just saw it. That gentleman, that kid was suffering. He didn't roll up concealed. He didn't roll up in an elaborate costume, in an elaborate ruse. He walked in with intent, complete intent. Complete intent. And the people on the streets, that's the other thing. Culturally, how desensitized are we? And how is it that nobody else in that street recognized that weapon, recognized, like, hey, that doesn't seem right. If it looks wrong, smells wrong, like, this doesn't seem right. I need to call a cop. Or better yet, let me go figure out a way that I can help out, because this looks like something horrible is about to happen. Like,
it's crazy. It's crazy to think that he can walk in New York and not one person think it was odd. Not one person not one person was anything. I think it's telling of how our society is these days, whether it be turn the cheek and, like, you know what, I don't see it, keep going.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I think happened. I think people saw it, and I don't think there's enough people with the sense of wanting to preserve life or be involved. And it's not Texas, it's not San Antonio. This isn't a place where there are men that are willing to say,
guns and everyone.
Exactly.
This is very different, very different environment there. And not everyone is going to have the mindset to protect others. That's just the truth of it. I think some states kind of breed that by way of, Texas is Texas, right? Just like certain states are just like those certain states that, like, no, we protect our own. I think New York is such a wild place, man. And it's one of those places where you do just kind of ignore the person right next to you on a subway, and you just pay no mind to them. It is, you just mind your business and keep going about your day. And since the culture of New York is that, I think this one slipped right under the radar.
Yeah. Unfortunately. And I would say to anybody listening, like, it does take guts to even do something like pick up the phone and call for 911. Like, being a good Samaritan, being a good man, being a good citizen means that sometimes you take action. And I can understand 100%. You're a father, you're a mother, you're a student, you have a life of your own. But in those moments where you see something and you get that feeling of this doesn't seem right, find your courage. Even if it's just to yell, to scream, to shout, find your courage. Things could have played out differently if somebody would have made enough noise. Just make noise. If you can't run into the fray, if you can't run in and do something, and I get it. I wasn't there. So I'm Monday morning quarterbacking this. But I will tell you, even if you're too scared, fight through that fear and do something, say something, grab the phone, call 911. Like we're better than this. We are,
Yeah.
like, even if that entire building was filled with the greatest evil on earth, that still wasn't the right choice to go in there and just shoot up the place. That's not the right choice. That's not the right choice. And we have to do better. And the easiest thing we can all do is just take action. When you see something, say something, scream, shout, try to friggin' divert attention to the threat. Like, and if you're there, if you're an able-bodied human being, try to save a life. Try to save a life. The day of just recording stuff has got to stop, man. The cell phone camera footage, the shock, the outrage, the clickbait, we got to fight through it. I think it could have been a little bit different if we just had at least one person that was willing to say, hey, what's going on over there? Like, just get somebody's attention, man.
Yep. Well, I love it, man. Thank you so much for your time today, Denny. For those who are listening, to Denny Caballero, he has a podcast called the Security Hope Podcast. You guys go check him out. He always has incredible guests and incredible insight, and it's one of my favorite people to bring on here. Thank you so much for that, brother.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll circle back and do another group one because that's one of my favorites. We'll find some pipe hitters in the circle to argue and talk about different security postures and thoughts. But those of you who are listening, I hope this helped you get into a state of mind, something that help you maybe war game life a little bit. When I say that it's something we do is we think about all the scenarios, think about the goods, the bads, the uglies, on how we can counter those with different measures. Protect yourself, protect your family, and protect your friends. I hope that you guys stay safe out there. Thank you for listening. This is Time to Head North podcast, and I'm your host, Vince Vargas. Take care.